The Kansas City Chiefs are back at it again. Welcome to the Scrambling Armchair for Chiefs news, analysis, and opinion every day. The Kansas City Chiefs appear to have signed Jerry Tillery, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I call him Jared Tillery, because for some reason that is his name in my mind. So, a tweet from Jordan Schultz. Sources: the Kansas City Chiefs are signing former Chargers first-round defensive tackle Jerry Tillery to a one-year deal. Good depth add to the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line, as Tillery has recorded 12.5 sacks and forced 4 fumbles in 50 career starts. I'm not positive that this will be a depth signing for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this will be a co-starter with Chris Jones. In an article titled "Report, Chiefs Sign Defensive Lineman Jerry Tillery," Kansas City is adding some depth up front from Arrowhead Pride by Jared Sapp. We get the following. Tillery was a first-round selection, 28th overall of the Los Angeles Chargers in the 2019 NFL Draft. His best season in Los Angeles came in 2021 as he played 79% of the Chargers' defensive snaps and totaled 4.5 sacks. After declining his fifth-year option, the Chargers waived him during the 2022 campaign. Tillery finished the 2022 season with the Las Vegas Raiders after being claimed on waivers. After sticking in Las Vegas for 2023, he was a member of the Minnesota Vikings in 2024. For his career, Tillery has appeared in 96 games with 12.5 sacks and forced 4 fumbles. So who is Jerry Tillery? At the combine, these were his measurements: 6'6" and 1/2 inches. He is a very tall defensive tackle, but on the slight side at 295 pounds, 34.25 inch arms, 10 5/8 inch hands, a sub 5 second 40-yard dash with a 4.93, adding in a 1.69 10-yard split, which I think is very impressive. A 32-inch vert, a 9'7" broad jump, and 23 reps on the bench press. Those are all kind of in line with what you would hope to see from a defensive tackle. Those 23 reps with those 34.25 inch arms, pretty impressive there. Now, as far as who he is on the field, we get these statistics here. 12.5 sacks, averaging 2.2 per season, 12 pressures per season, and misses 4 tackles a year. So not the greatest number. He's a sure tackler. He's not the most sure tackler, but he does show some skill on the defensive line at the defensive tackle position, which the Kansas City Chiefs are going to need in this coming season. I think that the defensive line is going to be a point of emphasis in the draft. Here's what you're getting from him from a snaps perspective. You're going to get basically 400 to 500 snaps per season, 467 last year, 500 the year before, 448, 860, and 747 in the 2021-2020 time frame, where he was again a first rounder. So they were hoping he was going to be a starter along their defensive line. Never really panned out as starter material for the Chargers, with 353 reps in his rookie season. Now, how does that pair up to Tershawn Wharton? Last season was Tershawn Wharton's biggest year with 667 snaps, 62% of the snaps for which he was available. He started 10 games that season. We go back up here. Where are we? 11 starts from Tillery last year for the Vikings. That Vikings defensive line was pretty decent, and so I think the Chiefs are looking at a starter alongside Chris Jones, someone who is going to... I think that this is probably a bad sign for Charles Omenihu returning, because I think that Tillery along the Chiefs defensive line will provide some reps at defensive end, at the edge position for the Chiefs. They do like to have bigger defensive linemen, and they do put them at edge oftentimes. You've seen Chris Jones line up there. Now, Chris Jones, a much better pass rusher than Tillery, but Tillery has proven that he can get after the passer. I think what this really is a move to stabilize after losing Tershawn Wharton. It allows them to not have to target anyone in the draft. What we've seen from the Chiefs as an overarching sort of strategy in free agency is to free up their draft potential towards the best player available. I don't think now, looking at this team, you would say there's anything that they have to grab in the draft. I think that is the strategy from Brett Veach. I think that we have seen Brett Veach do this often in the past. And one thing that we've seen him do in addition to this, none of these signings will preclude Brett Veach from taking a player at a position that was a need. He does like to pair a rookie with a veteran signing. And because of that, the Chiefs never really have positions run bare. You can say that the offensive line has been a struggle for the Chiefs. Well, the offensive line is kind of a struggle around the NFL. It's hard to find guys that big that can move and block. We've seen more and more edge players over the last few years end up running a 4.4 40-yard dash. So the offensive line, while it has been a point of emphasis for the Chiefs, and they have not quite hit, I don't think that's the biggest sin in the world. Likewise, defensive tackle has been a sore spot for the Chiefs. Remember, Tershawn Wharton was an undrafted rookie free agent. The Chiefs have drafted multiple big-bodied defensive tackles to try to place them next to Chris Jones and hope that that big-bodied defensive tackle can be a two-gap run stuffer and free up Chris Jones for the pass rush. We have seen Chris Jones in the past few years. It seems that he's put a point of emphasis on stopping the run in his game, becoming a more complete defensive tackle, because he has shown definitive progress in that department. Tillery, I think, is, unless someone falls to them in the draft or they trade up for someone in the draft, is going to start next to Chris Jones, because I don't see another option currently on the roster. And I don't think that there's anyone in this draft who's going to be an immediate impact starter outside of very high in the draft. And defensive tackles who can start, who can rush the passer, and who do have the ability to stop the run go very fast. And we see why, right? So many of the defensive tackles in the NFL are specialists one way or another. Chris Jones was a specialist pass rusher for a very large portion of his career. This signing, in my opinion, does more to solidify the defense. We saw them bring in Christian Fulton at the cornerback position. He's going to be competing for that number 2 cornerback spot with Jalen Watson. They should have a very solid secondary, provided someone is able to step in for Justin Reed. And guys, if someone does step in for Justin Reed, and I think they have the horses to do it, this defense should be better than solid. Again, they re-signed Nick Bolton, which stopped them from having to take a linebacker in the draft. I don't think they would have had to. I think that Leo Chenal could man one of those positions very competently, that starting middle linebacker position. But getting more solid up the middle of the defense is always a good thing. And we see the Chiefs, the video I'm going to drop later is focused on the offense and the signings that the Chiefs have made on the offense during this season, leading to more explosive plays. One of the strategies that has been deployed by opponents in the past in order to curb the Kansas City Chiefs and explosive potential, hasn't been necessary the past few seasons, we'll just get that out of the way now, is to try to hang on to the ball. And the Chiefs were weak against the run. That is an effective strategy when you're trying to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Kill the clock, run the ball, and you minimize what it is that Patrick Mahomes can do to your defense. A guy like Jerry Tillery being able to come in and start, he is a very big guy. He's a little bit slight at 295, but that has not hampered him in his career. Seeing the snap counts for Jerry Tillery is promising, because you are replacing Tershawn Wharton, who last year was a very big piece of this defense, and you're doing it with a guy that is not a question mark, a guy that is not a mystery. You're doing it with an established veteran. Tillery is 28 years old, and he does have the tools. We've seen the Chiefs have success batting passes in the past. I believe George Karlaftis led the league his rookie year. Chris Jones is very tall, so cutting down on passing lanes is going to be a big thing for this defense, provided they can get pass rush. The big thing with a defensive lineman getting his hands up and being able to bat a pass down is quick passes. And if the Chiefs can get heat on the passer, then this sort of signing, a 6'6.5", nearly 6'7" defensive tackle with, very long arms, will reduce an offense's ability to just sustain drives with those short passes. Could be it's not the biggest signing in the world, but it could be one of these small signings that lead to a cascading effect on the defense. The small plays that keep drives alive, 3rd and 1, it's a run. Well, now you have Jerry Tillery, who is not the biggest defensive tackle in the world, not the best run stuffer in the world, but he's a competent defensive tackle. If it wasn't Chris Jones at defensive tackle and Tershawn Wharton at defensive tackle, the Chiefs ran into issues last year. Mike Pennell, on the downside of his career, was great in the playoffs 2 years ago. Didn't really have a whole lot of impact last year. Putting in Jerry Tillery, a guy who's not 30, who's not over the hill, a few years older than Tershawn Wharton. Wharton, again, came into the league pretty young. Should solidify the defensive line with the exception of that edge position opposite of George Karlaftis. So basically that's what I have for the Jerry Tillery signing. If you like or appreciate this sort of thing, hitting the like button really does help me out. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel. We are over 2 years of consecutive daily uploads on the channel. So consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for Chiefs talk in the future. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.